Welcome everybody to the Levridge 2023 R1 What's New webinar. Today we're going to take a look at some of the new features that are just currently released in Levridge 2023 R1. There are four major features that we're going to look at today. First of all is the commodity meter tickets. So the commodity meter tickets feature is a facility that is used inside of Levridge to help measure liquid product, bulk liquids like ethanol and other biofuels. Meters are typically used to track the quantities of the ledger of those products, and the new feature now will allow you to enter in the meter and the quantities in gallons or liters. This feature can be turned on or off through feature management. So if you're using Levridge and you don't use meter tickets, you can turn it off and it won't bother you. The second feature we'll take a look at today is contract overruns and floating quantities. This is some new functionality that we've added to allow the user or the contractor to ship a quantity greater than the purchase or sales contract quantity was originally written for. So for example, maybe you had a 10,000 bushel contract and it's okay if they deliver you 10,500 bushels. There's some new features that allow that contract overrun. The floating quantity purchase contract allows a contract quantity to increase as tickets are applied to the contract. So this is used quite often in price later contracts where the quantity isn't actually known before delivery, or it might be a production contract where somebody, where a commodity processor may contract with all the production from a given farm and field, and the quantity isn't really known, so the contract quantity just ratchets up as the grower delivers. Then there's a couple of reporting features that we've added. One is a sequence list for contracts and scale tickets, and this is just a listing of contracts or scale tickets by the document sequence number. So it helps highlights any voids and any gaps in number sequences that the auditor might want to look into. And then finally, the delivery statement report. The delivery statement report can be used by growers or can be given to a grower that gives a ticket by ticket list based on commodity or field or growing season, and it can be used to certify the yield for the farm service agency for that grower. So let's take a look at some of the features. Let's give a quick little demonstration here of some of those new features. And we will start with the meter tickets. So this here is the main screen to Levridge 2023 R1. And what we'll do first is I'll show you how we can turn the meter tickets on or off using feature management. So I hit System Administration, go to Feature Management, go to All. We're just going to search for commodity, metered, and hit OK. And you can see here a feature called commodity metered tickets. The status is on. I have turned that feature on. And so you will see that in my system. If you want to turn it off, you just click on the feature and disable the feature, and then the meter ticket information will be hidden from you. But we're going to use it on because we're going to show you the demonstration today using meter tickets. So first of all, we've got that covered. Now I wanted to go to Setup and show you some of the setup information around meter tickets. So again, I'm going to Commodity Information, Setup, Commodity Accounting Parameters. And we look under the tickets, meter tickets. And as you may know, meter tickets have a gross quantity and a net quantity. The gross quantity is the gross gallons as measured by the meter, and the net is usually a temperature adjusted net quantity. Sales contracts, purchase contracts, transfers can use, may be specific on which quantity they want to use, whether they're going to use the gross quantity or the net. So we can set up here just what is the default for us. For sales contracts, it's either net or gross quantity. For purchase and for transfer tickets. We have all ours set up to be, as a default, the net quantity. The next thing we'll look at is the purchase contracts. And purchase contracts also have been enhanced to handle the metered tickets. And we'll just take a look at one that we've already put in the system. And we'll look at this one for ethanol here. And you can see here we've added a new data field called use meter quantity. Again, this when you create a new contract, that default comes in from those settings, but you can also change it contract by contract. So which meter quantity are you going to apply to this contract? Is it net or gross quantity? And you can see this one I have set up for net. And we can also do origin or destination quantities based on the meter ticket, same as you would if it was a scale ticket. Okay, so let's take a look at how we can enter or view meter ticket information. So we hit commodity accounting, inbound, delivery. I'm sorry, we're going to look at the outbound first. We're going to look at outbound meter tickets right here. And you can see I've entered a few in the system already. So we'll just take a look at one quickly, and then I'll enter one just to show you how easy it is. So let's take a look at this meter ticket here, just so you how it's a little bit different than a scale ticket, but yet quite similar. So I have the ticket type, the meter ticket number and date, the status, whether it's opened or applied or settled, what branch or which location the meter ticket was taken into the customer. The ship to address, that's all pretty much the same as the scale ticket. We do support direct shipping of meter tickets if you do that. But the main thing here is the meter ticket tab here. And so the information we collect there is about which meter they use, if you have more than one meter at that facility, the gross quantity, the net quantity. The difference between the two is shrink. And the unit of measure, we support any of the units of measure you may have set up in finance and operations. In our case, we have gallons set up. The temperature that came from the meter ticket, the temperature of the liquid, whether it's Fahrenheit or Celsius, and then some information here, miscellaneous information about which tank it came in, the certificate of analysis, start and stop times, and then for this is the important one. We can both we can track both the meter quantity and the weight. So if you have both, here you can specify which ones to use. Do you want to use the quantity from the meter, or do you want to use the quantity from the scale? As you can see here, the meter ticket has quantity information here, but you can also put in gross tare, and the net weight will calculate. So you can also put in weight information, so you can both scale the load and use the meter ticket, and then based on this setting, we'll know which one to use when we apply it to the contract and invoice for that outbound shipment. So let's do one real quick. We'll just do a brand new one. We'll just start with a new, see what's a little bit different. We have an outbound ticket. We're going to use ethanol in our example, and it's going to go to our Barnesville plant, and the customer is going to be, we can just pick anybody here. Maybe we sell to ADM today. And you know which meter it came by, and I'm just going to meter number one. The gross quantity, let's say it was 7,600 gallons. The net is 7,580. The system will calculate the shrink for you. Let's say the temperature was 75 degrees Fahrenheit, and we will put a tank or certificate of analysis. We hit create, and now we've created a outbound meter ticket that easy. With this feature also comes support for the Ag XML import of meter tickets. So if your meter supports the exporting of that ticket in Ag XML, these tickets are typically just imported then, and you can just edit them here. You don't have to key each and every one of them. But that's as easy as it is to create a outbound meter ticket. The next step in the outbound process that we've enhanced is the application of that ticket to the contract. So I'm just going to go right here from this screen and apply this ticket to a sales contract. And you can see here, the only enhancement here is that we have added the meter information here, so that when you select this ticket and apply it, it will apply the appropriate quantity. Let me get out of this one. I don't have a contract here, so we're going to do that through this sales contract outbound ticket application. And we are going to see, here's an ethanol ticket here that's unapplied, and we're going to select that ticket. And let's see, we're going to just take this out. We get this to show. There, we got some more. There we have tickets here that are unapplied. We have some to Coke Industries. I can select the ticket, and then as we select the ticket here, the contracts to which it can be applied are down below. And you notice this one is 7,510 gallons gross when we apply it. The contract is set on net, so it uses the net quantity instead of the gross when we apply the ticket. So that's an enhancement that we made to the outbound scale ticket application. So when we are applying meter ticket, it uses the meter information, and that could include the weight rather than the meter, depending on the setting on the ticket, and then apply it to the contract here. Okay, so although the most common use of meter tickets is outbound, we also have added meter tickets to inbound. So if we go to inbound and inbound meter tickets, it's pretty much the same information as outbound. We've added meter ticket information, fast tab here for meter, and you can weigh it also, so that's inbound. And then in addition to that, then we have enhanced the inbound ticket application to support meter tickets also. Also, transfer tickets have been enhanced to include transfer meter tickets. So if you're transferring liquid from one location, one of your branch locations to another, you can do that through the meter quantity rather than the scale, like you would do it with a weighed product. All right, so that pretty much sums up the meter ticket features that were included in 2023 R1. Next, we will talk about the contract overrun and floating quantities features that were added in Levridge 2023 R1. So first of all, a little explanation about contract overrun and how Levridge handles that. So Levridge has by default the ability to set contract by contract the quantity of overrun that's allowed, and it works off of a single ticket overrun. So if you have a ticket that exceeds the contract quantity and it's less than the overrun quantity, it will apply that entire ticket and overrun that contract by that amount. At that time, it'll call the contract full, and you won't be able to, by default, apply any more tickets to that contract without amending the contract and increasing it. So the best way to explain that, I think, is just to take a look at an example. So let's look at the purchase contracts, and you're going to see here that we have added a little functionality for overrun. Let's take a look at this contract right here. So we've added two new features. One is the overfill fields here, and it is this contract does allow overrun on purchase contracts. So the contract itself will allow you to overrun it. If that's set to no, it'll only allow the application of a quantity equal to the contract quantity. We're going to turn it on for our example. And we're going to allow up to a 500 bushel overrun on this purchase contract, which it has 1,000 bushel is the main quantity of there's a contract quantity. 500 bushels overrun means the maximum we would take on this contract is 1,500. Now the floating quantity is turned off because you're not allowed to have a floating contract and an overrun. You pick one or the other. So a floating quantity will just increase the quantity on the purchase contract until it's closed. So it doesn't make sense to have an overrun because it never overruns with a float. It just keeps floating up as you apply tickets to it. So this contract, again, 1,000 bushels. We're allowing a 500 bushel overrun, so the maximum we can apply to this contract is 1,500 bushels. Let's take a look at applying tickets to this contract. We open up inbound ticket application, and we have a filter for our location and branch and customer, and we see we have 3 scale tickets here that we could apply that are not applied that we could apply to that contract. So let's just pick the top item, and you can see by the bushels we have a 900 bushel ticket, a 500 bushel ticket, and a 750 bushel ticket. So if I pick the 900 bushel ticket and we select that, we see down here that that's 1,000 bushel contract applied is available to be applied to. So if I apply that, no problem, puts the 900 bushels on there without a problem. If we pick the 900 and the 500, that's a total of 1,400 bushels, as you'll see right here. And we apply that, and it gives us a little notice, hey, we're overrunning it by 400 bushels because there's 1,000 bushels left. But since it's less than the 500 bushel overrun, it'll go ahead and apply both those tickets to that contract. If we select the top ticket for 900 bushels and the bottom ticket for 750 bushels, we have a total of 1,650 bushels that we've selected. This contract is for 1,000. If we select that contract, we'll notice that it only applies 1,000 bushels because there's not room for this second ticket. There's not room for this 750 bushels in the remaining quantity plus the overrun. So it just fills it exact, and it'll split this second ticket into 2, and we can apply that second portion of the ticket to another contract. So again, that's how by default, how the overrun works with Levridge tickets, is that it will apply the full ticket if there's room on that contract with the remaining quantity and the allowed overrun for the contract. If you want to apply more than one ticket to that contract, you can simply zoom down on the purchase contract here to the link, and then just update the contract quantity to be a large enough quantity to allow both tickets to be applied. Okay, so I also wanted to set, there's a couple of default settings that we can set with contract overruns, and so we will go look at that through commodity accounting, setup, and commodity accounting parameters. So if you would like to, under the commodities tab and the contracts fast tab, you can see for sales contracts if you want to allow contracts to be overrun or not. And then you can also set a default quantity. So when you create new contracts, do you want that overrun to be defaulted to yes or no if you turn it off? And then the quantity will then also default on each contract based on this setting. Same thing on purchase contracts. You can allow contract overruns or not. And if you do, you can have a default quantity. I've got mine set at 100 here. In our example, we had it at 500. But again, this is the default. And then as you create the contract, you can change the overrun amount, overrun quantity allowed as the contract dictates. Okay, so the next feature, this feature works for both purchase contracts and sales contracts. And there is some reporting that is available with that overrun, and that is found here under inquiries and commodity accounting. inquiries and reports. There is a purchase contract overrun report that will list any of the overruns, and I don't have any in the system here, but you can see all the different overruns that happened on any given contract. So that's a new inquiry and report. It's just a listing of the contract overruns. We also have that same feature for sales contract overruns too. A floating contract quantity. Let's talk about floating quantity. So that has been added to the purchase contract, and I will just go ahead and we will create a new one, a new contract, and we'll just make it a price later contract because that might be common for some corn. To contract, let's do it for Anderson Farms. And the quantity, we'll just put a nominal quantity of 100 bushels on here, and it is not priced. So all we need to do to be able to get this contract quantity to float up as tickets are applied is just simply mark it as a floating quantity contract. And now as we apply tickets to that contract, the contract quantity will increase. And then when you're all done with that contract and you want to close it, since it's floating, it'll always stay open. And open, the status open means that you can continue to apply scale tickets. All you do here is you change the contract status to closed when it's done, and then no more tickets will be allowed to be applied to that contract. So that's floating contracts. So that concludes the section of what's new in 2023 R1 regarding contract overruns on contract floats. Next, we'll talk about the new reporting features in Levridge 2023 R1. There's a couple of new reports. One is ticket number there's a set of sequence number reports that we have added, including scale tickets, purchase contracts, and deferreds. And in addition to that ticket number list, we also have a delivery statement report that we've added. So first of all, let's take a look at the ticket number sequence reports. So like other reports, they're under commodity accounting, inquiries and reports, and ticket list by number. You see the three new reports: ticket list by number, contract list by number, and deferred contract list by number. Let's take a look at the ticket list by number report. We're presented with a date range. So you can do this ticket list, you can do it for any date range you'd like. I'm just doing it from April till today, May 2nd. And we're looking at inbound tickets and just this one branch. We could restrict it by commodity if we wanted to. We could show only the voided tickets if we wanted just a list of voided tickets, but we're gonna include voids in our listing. And we're going to include the gross weight and the tare weight, and it's going to go to the screen. So let's just take a look at what that might look like. So by default, or by design, this is listed in ticket number order. And you can see here all the ticket numbers listed, the date, the customer, the commodity, gross tare, and gross quantities like we had designed. And when there's a gap in the ticket number sequence, then this shows up as a gap. And so for some reason, there's a gap between ticket number 6 and ticket number 9. So that just highlights that for you, and you can see is that gap, what happened to those tickets, and why is there a gap? Did we forget to key them? Have they been lost, or just why is that gap there? So that's what this report is designed for. It's just to give us a ticket listing and then identify any gaps. The same thing is with the same type of thing we do with the contract list by number. So with the contract list, again, you have the from and the to dates. I've expanded it here to be a couple years worth. The purchase contracts we're going to look at, and all contract types. You might have contract numbering by type, and if you do that, you can restrict this list to, hey, just show me cash contracts or futures fixed contracts or basis contracts. We're going to go ahead and show all contracts for this branch of our location of Barnesville, and it's going to show to the screen. Let's go ahead and take a look at what that looks like. Again, by design, this is by contract number order, by prefix. So all the C contracts, which in our case we have set up to cash contracts start with a C, and there are no gaps. There's just 2 of them. Basis contracts start with a B in our setup. They wouldn't have to in your case, but and there's no gaps here between our Bs. And then PLs, our price later contracts, there's no gaps in our price later contract sequence. So if there were gaps, you'd see the same type of thing you saw in the scale list, and there would be, it would identify the gap and say, hey, we're missing contract, whichever number in that number sequence it is. We also have done the same thing for deferreds. So I'll just show you that quickly. The deferred contract list, these are deferred contract amendments. We're gonna do it from the beginning of the month for our branch of Barnesville. And let's just take a look at those. I think I have a couple in here, for example. And I just have it 2, and there's no gaps. It's contract number 1 and contract number 2. Again, same thing as a scale ticket report. If there was a gap, it would identify, hey, we're missing this number, but we have all numbers present and accounted for in this example. The next report we're going to take a look at is the new delivery statement report. So we can find that under commodity accounting, delivery statement under inquiries and reports, inbound, and delivery statement. So we have by default a date range that we're going to look for every ticket that was delivered this year for this particular customer. For corn, no matter what branch they brought it to. And we're going to show moisture, test weight, and FM on the report. We could also filter it by growing season if we track that on the scale ticket. So I could just show 2022 crop year, or perhaps I just want to show all 2021 crop year tickets in this report. And again, within this state range. If you do track farm and field, you can also filter the report to show certain farms and fields and get the report just for that. In our setup here, we are going to include the gross weight and the tare weight and any ownership splits. So if you have a landlord-tenant situation where you're splitting the ticket 60-40, 50-50, you can run the report for the landlord and you can run the report for the tenant and it will show their splits. And in this case, I'm going to show that. We'll see. I don't think this guy has any splits. And then if you want a signature block, you can put that on the bottom. You can include the signature section. I'm going to, for our example, you could have that turned to no and it would be suppressed, but we're going to show the signature block. We're going to say who's going to sign it and what their title is. Let's take a look at this report. So per our filters for Anderson Farms, delivery statement shows the ticket dates, the ticket numbers, and notice there we have some Alexandria tickets that were at the Alex location, and that were some that were delivered to Barnesville, the gross weights, tare, net, and since we asked for it, we are getting the gross quantity, the net quantity, and then the split quantity. So if any of these tickets, which they aren't, were split 50-50, 60-40, whatever the split would be, that would just include the owner's share of that split. In this case, they're the same. And the gross quantity owner split. And then we have the moisture, test weight, and FM as part of this reports with total on the bottom. And at the bottom, we have a signature block so that it could be officially documented for the FSA if they'd like to. Again, kind of primarily used here to, tell the growers, hey, here's the tickets we received for you, and then also to help them prove their yield at the FSA office. So that concludes the reporting section of what's new in 2023 R1 Leverage. And it concludes this entire webinar. I hope you enjoy the features that we've released to you this release, and look for more to come in 2023 R2.